Hello. If you're listening to this, it means you've joined us for the first episode of Juices Flowing, a place of limitless potential, a place where we could soar beyond the stratosphere like the Sputnik or crash and burn like the Hindenburg. Let's find out together, shall we? The reason I've included this intro is because I recorded this interview with Marty several months back, so a lot of the info and upcoming events we talk about have now passed. C'est la vie. Anyway, that's not going to stand in the way of the delightful conversation I had with my dear friend, Marty Bright. So without further ado, welcome to Juices Flowing. Hello world and welcome to the hottest podcast on the block, Juices Flowing, where the juices are most certainly flowing. I'm joined at this time by my friend, Marty Bright.
Hello. Hi.
How you doing?
Those pipes, that was impressive pipes.
Well, it's, that is my trade.
Yeah.
One of them.
It sounded like, I'm going 90s reference straight away. It sounded like in Wayne's World, are you familiar with Wayne's World?
I watched it on a field trip to Sydney, when they used to have the TV in the middle of the bus.
Yeah.
They put it on one time.
The same DVD, like he never even takes it out.
Yeah.
The bus driver, it's just like on loop.
Yeah, but we were 15, so Wayne's World was permissible.
Was that for school?
Yeah.
I
was impressed.
We had, what were our ones? Truman Show. That was like the VHS that they got out all the time. Princess Bride.
Bro.
Yeah, these are actually pretty good in retrospect.
Two phenomenal films right there.
And I think maybe Shrek.
Mate, that's a trifecta.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, and also Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
But I think they were all films that had been included in the syllabus at some point.
Yes.
So I think what happened was we used them as part of the syllabus. And then they also used them again as stocking stuffers when there was like a period where nothing was getting done.
That is going to keep costs for the school at a minimum.
Yeah. Good start. Pop culture references. I wouldn't expect anything else less than us.
Yeah. Hey, we're here. Marty, normally the custom is for me to rattle off a bunch of things, nouns, adjectives, about your passions, your interests, your hobbies. But I'm going to turn that over to you and I'm going to frame it in this question. And the question is, what gets your juices flowing?
I'll tell you what gets my juices flowing. The way that you just like dropped your voice down an octave to ask that question, to get that like nice radio, that Richard Mercer. Are you familiar with Richard Mercer?
I can't say I am.
He was the guy that was on Mix 106.5 for decades, and he did the love song dedications. Like it was like late at night, and he'd come to the mic and he'd be like, "This next song to Laura from Adrian in Bellevue Hill, and it comes along with a little message. He said that he adores you and he wants to have your babies."
Wow. What a community
and
service.
then they press play and it would be like Whitney Houston, and it was always like weekdays between, I don't know, like 9 and 11. Someone can write in and it was great.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they would have clips on YouTube now because his voice was just
velvet.
I preferred most of the time, if I was listening to radio, I prefer the songs. But when he was on, I was like, don't play the songs. Just keep talking. What was the question?
Well, you answered it. It's what gets your juices flowing.
Yeah, I suppose.
Richard Mercer.
Sultry tones.
On a weekday night.
The answer would be sultry tones. What gets my juices flowing?
Well, look, okay, maybe that is a big question, and we have a whole podcast to answer that. So maybe I will backtrack a bit
Sure.
and ask, who are you?
That's a good question.
Which is also a big question.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, that was a big question. Let me just ask, what's the meaning of life? Who am I? Well, I always like to work back. That's my little trick I have started doing with people when I speak to people I haven't spoken to in years, and you haven't chatted to them for ages, and people go, oh, so like, how have you been? How do we pick a starting point? My little tip for all the listeners out there is, if you haven't spoken to someone in a long period of time, instead of trying to scramble to get 5 years of a catch up into like one conversation, go backwards. Ask them, hey, what'd you do today? And you'd be surprised how much you can figure out in just asking someone what they did today. They might reveal they have a partner, they live in this suburb, they do this as a job, and then you piece it together in reverse. But then it also keeps you present. You're not like, oh yeah, remember Jimbo from high school? Yeah, he's dead. Oh, okay, then cool.
God rest you, Jimbo.
Wasn't invited to the funeral. I thought Jimbo and I were tight.
Yeah, this conversation's over. Bye.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I'm going to start employing that strategy because it's rather than like bust out a bunch of milestones.
Yeah.
They're just going to be in the ambience and the background of that question of what'd you do today?
Exactly. Yeah. Or they might say, oh, I went to the cafe. What'd you get? Oh, I got a vegan, a vegan pastry. And they're like, oh, you're vegan? Yeah. Well, I went to India, and you're like, oh, I went to India. It's all unravels. See, and this is the art, because you asked me a question and I dissected what the question was, as opposed to asking the question, answering the question. Who am I? That's a great question. Well, right now I feel like I have so many different strings to my bow / types of offerings to the world that I feel I mean, let me rattle some. Comedian, poet, musician, event producer. I've started dabbling in like media and PR. Did I say poet?
You did, but you can say it again because it feels nice.
Yeah, poet. Event MC. I've just finished like a life coaching short course online.
Ooh.
I teach comedy classes for adults who haven't done comedy before and teach them the ropes, which I'll be doing at Newcastle Comedy Club in about a month.
Ooh, nice plug.
Yeah.
So depending on when this comes out, do we have a date for that?
Yeah. Newcastle Comedy Club beginner's crash course in stand-up comedy is going to be on the 23rd and the 24th of April. So a Saturday and a Sunday, like daytime.
Nice.
And then the Monday is a public holiday, but on the Tuesday, we'll be doing the graduation performance for the people who do the course at the comedy club on Tuesday, which is the night they normally do their open mic, kind of newbie night anyway.
There you go.
I'm working with the comedy club to, get the grassroots vibes happening, and, get some people up on stage that, might have been thinking about it for years. That's actually how I started comedy. It was a birthday present from my mum. She was like, I thought, you've always watched, I was always up till like 2 a.m. watching, because no matter how little money we had, my mum could always afford Foxtel. And full package, like world movies.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh, TCM.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, so I'd be up watching Comedy Channel, and they'd always put stand-up on between like 11 and like 2 or 11 and 3. They'd put all these like straight from the US. So when I was 12, I was watching half an hour comedy specials from Comedy Central that weren't on Channel 10. They weren't on Channel 9. If you had regular free-to-air TV, the only stand-up you saw was one comedian on Rove occasionally. They would have someone, and Letterman on Channel 9, you would see a comedian. So I saw a lot of the comedians that are huge now with their first little 20-minute special back in the day. So your Bill Burrs and your Dane Cooks and your Louis C.K. and Wanda Sykes. So that was how my mum knew that I loved comedy. So by the time I was 21, she thought it was a good present. It was a great present, but it was also like a shove because she paid a couple $100. I'm not going to not go. So I couldn't procrastinate any longer. So that's why I like to do these courses, because I know there's plenty of people out there that have thought about it. And I believe if it's something you've thought about, try it once. Some people keep going. Some people say, hey, that's me. One time. So, and you actually participated in one of my ad hoc comedy introduction courses at a New Year's Eve party in the woods.
I did indeed. Who'd have thunk? What a place for it. But I will attest to Marty as a great mentor and guide. You really made myself, and I'm sure a lot of the other people, feel very comfortable, and created a really safe space in which to experiment and express ourselves. So, yeah, and then for that to happen, that was in a woodland party context. Like, take that and place it in the brand new schwanky Newcastle Comedy Club, and I think it's going to be phenomenal. The reason we're here together today is because Marty did his show as part of Newcastle Fringe Festival yesterday afternoon at the Newcastle Comedy Club, and that was my first experience at that venue. I was considerably impressed. It's so nice. It's got the red velvet and all the bells and whistles. A lot of love and passion has gone into that.
Definitely.
And I've only ever seen you as part of other things going on, like open mic or as an MC. So it was very brilliant to see you, just you, like it's your show. And there's the comedy, and then there's the poetry and the music, and it's a really delicious 3-course meal, I suppose.
Got your juices flowing.
It got my juices flowing, absolutely. And so now we're here to talk about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyone who hasn't been, highly recommend. Cool, unique, local attraction. And anyone who's considering maybe getting into comedy, who's even aired the thought for a minute, maybe look into the what's it called officially?
That is a good question. And you can pad while I get it up on my phone.
Well, Marty will be running this Intro to Comedy workshop at the Newcastle Comedy Club, April 23rd and 24th. And I highly recommend it. It has an official name.
It's the Comedy Crash Course. Newcastle Comedy Club presents the Comedy Crash Course.
There you have it.
Yeah. And speaking of juices flowing, we also have, within the last 20 minutes, moved one step closer to our idea, not executing, but putting together our Simpsons trivia and sing-along show, which is close to being locked in at a venue in Canberra. So that should be a fun little collab.
Yes, and a very, just an endless source of shared camaraderie. The love of The Simpsons. Yeah, it truly is.
Infinite. I believe I've met my match. I don't think I'd ever met somebody that can riff with lines from The Simpsons as effortlessly.
Oh, wow. Well, I did spend most of my HSC just watching The Simpsons. As
Saturday morning, Fox 8?
Yeah, had that on lock. I did my HSC in the golden era of the internet, 2011, 2012. So the Pirate Bay was in full effect, and a good friend of mine, I lived out in the country, so my internet was pretty lackluster. I didn't have broadband for a while. But a friend of mine who lived in town, he had great internet, and he would just torrent all the movies, all the TV shows. And so one day we sat there for a few hours as he loaded my hard drive up with 20 plus seasons worth of The Simpsons. And then I just hooked into that when I was meant to be studying.
No ads.
No ads.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. Love that.
Oh, what a time.
What a time to be alive.
I know.
I love how in a small town where the internet's no good, the guy with the good internet almost has the same stature as like a drug dealer.
100%.
He's got the good shit.
Yeah.
Has he got that dial-up? Nah, not dial-up.
No, bro.
We have the premium. Premium speed.
Unlimited downloads, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That was Cessnock, right?
That was Cessnock.
Yeah.
D3, D5, man.
I think we spoke about it before that I did a gig at the theatre in Cessnock.
Oh, the Performing Arts Centre.
Yeah. And then you said that you performed there as part of a troupe or something?
Yeah, well, my band played one of our first gigs there. I remember we borrowed my friend's mum's car to
What car?
It was like a Sportage, you know.
Oh,
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I backed it into the Performing Arts Centre and like fucked it up a little bit. But his friends, the mum was cool. She was pretty. She was like, oh, you know, it happens. She wasn't too cut at me. Where was I going with this? Yes, the Performing Arts Centre. So played one of my earliest gigs there, and also
music.
Yes. And also there was a youth committee, the Cessnock Youth Entertainment Committee.
What did they attain?
Well, they met upstairs. There was a meeting room upstairs, and they would lure the youths in with promises of free food and occasionally free KFC, which was like, oh my God.
I love how when you say free food, KFC doesn't fall into the category of food. It's in its own category.
Foodstuffs.
Yeah, he said they offered us free food or sometimes actually free KFC because it's not even classed as food.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends who you ask. But yeah, so that was a cool little initiative. I think it was attached to the council, or maybe it was the Samaritans, one of them. And
were they the good ones or the bad Samaritans?
They were good Samaritans.
Naughty Samaritans.
I choked on a jelly baby in one of the meetings, and Lakin, God bless, rose to the occasion and gave me the Heimlich. And
Lakin was like the leader of the...
Yeah, Lakin was, the authority. And
that's a good Samaritan.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that? Do you think it's lame, or do you think like it could be a cool name for a band, like the Naughty Samaritans?
The Naughty Samaritans.
It's a bit sacrilegious.
It is a little bit. It's a bit cheeky. There's definitely some mystique there. It's like, okay, well, what are they up to?
I wonder if that was if that story was exactly true. I wonder how that one guy would feel thousands of years later.
Which story?
The story of the Good Samaritan.
Oh, okay. Can you refresh mine and the listeners' memories?
Well, this is flashing back because I went to a Catholic primary school, and so some of these stories I do remember. Not that my family are religious at all, but it was the better option in the area to the public school, we felt. So
right.
And along with that came all the tales,
of course,
which I liked. I liked the tales. And the Good Samaritan from memory is a tale. I'm just going to, I think there's someone is in trouble, either injured or got robbed in the desert, and they're essentially stranded in the desert, and lots of people walk past the injured person and don't help them. And someone does, and they are the Good Samaritan. Which kind of implies that the rest of them aren't good. Because wouldn't you?
He's the exception to the rule.
He's the Good Samaritan because there are those others, those naughty Samaritans. Which I think is that it's just playing on that classic social experiment that I've seen done on YouTube plenty of times, which is if someone looks injured or hurt, will people actually stop and intervene? I actually once, when I was in my early 20s, I stopped. You know those guys that go around trying to change people's electricity providers and they knock on the doors?
Oh, yeah.
I once was finishing a shift at a before and after school care, and I was about to get in my car, and I heard this car like stop in front of a house. And as the car stopped, one of these workers walked out of that one of the houses, and it's not really important what ethnicity he was for the story, so I'm not going to say it, but let's continue. Because if I said it, people go, oh, we all know what that means. It doesn't mean anything. But as a storyteller, I would like to say it because it gives you more of a visual of what was happening. I'm going to say it.
Go on.
So the guy was, I'm going to say dark-skinned, and I would say South Asian. So we're talking, and I didn't ask him. So I'm going to assume India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, somewhere in that region. And he came out with his clipboard and his lanyard. This car pulled up, and this quite like staunch Aussie tradie looking dude got out and just made a beeline towards him, shirt fronted him, pulled him up. What are you fucking, rah, 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 rah. And I came over and I was like, hey, settle, what's going on here? And broke it up and then quickly gathered the story while I was staying in between the two of them. And the story was that the door-to-door salesman had gotten in the house. He got the invite in. And then once he was in, I think the woman realized that she was in a situation where she was being sold something she didn't want. And then the salesman's tactic was to insult her or belittle her decision-making ability.
Oh.
And then she very quickly, crying, called her husband, who was already on the way home, who proceeded to go quicker, screeched up to the front door before the guy had even left, and met him at the gate. And I was pretty much just saying, sir, you're not beating this guy up in front of your own house, in front of this school, because all the kids were leaving the after-school care. And I essentially said, okay, cool. And what I got was I managed to trade information so that then I said, what's your ID number? Got his card, his staff ID number and the name of the company. I pretty much took the clipboard off him and got all the information I could from the clipboard, gave it to him. So you're going to make a formal complaint, da-da-da. Meanwhile, the salesman was on the ground on his knees touching the feet of the guy, because he was like begging for his life essentially, because he was so confronted by the fact. And then the guy got in his car and everyone went home.
The Good Samaritan.
The Good Martin.
Good Samaritan.
The Good Samaritan.
I think that might have legs. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but like in terms of like a name for a show or something, as a gimmick or something, the Good Samaritan. Yeah.
Well, the name of my first 1 hour, because you saw me do a 1 hour comedy / poetry, joking and spoken show last night. But my first ever 1 hour show that I did as part of Sydney Fringe Festival, my name is Marty Bright. The first show I ever did was called The Bright Side of Life.
Oh, I love it.
It was just me smiling. I was just playing on the fact that I was an upbeat kind of, comedian, and no dreads, no beard, just clean shaven.
Wow, that's hard for me to imagine.
Yeah, I'll show you. And when we finished the show, I had queued up the always look on the bright side of life. Yeah. And it went well.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah. Let me have a look.
Did everyone sing along? Yeah,
they did on the way out. There was another show after me.
That's great. I feel like I've been to a couple of gigs. Oh, actually, I believe I'm wearing the shirt back at Soundwave like a decade ago. Pretty sure after Iron Maiden played, and
Name drop.
Crowd surfed for the first time, etc.
You did?
Yeah.
What?
To Iron Maiden. Yeah, it was amazing.
Did you have 2 tickets to Iron Maiden?
I've got 2 tickets to Iron Maiden.
I think that song, Teenage Dirtbag, and in particular that I've got 2 tickets to Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I don't care what venue you're in. That's a banger.
Dude, okay, so
that will stop anyone anywhere of a certain age range and they go, we're in from the beginning.
Mate, I have a friend who took that and just took it so far. And I'll do another name drop. Zach Watt, I forget what the gig was, but his entire set over at Pachamama House here in beautiful Hamilton, his entire set was Teenage Dirtbag and different versions therein. He's like, okay, I think I'm going to chill things out. And he'd do like a soft acoustic-y ballad version.
Yeah.
Then he'd do like a 90s dance version.
Back to back or broken out throughout the set?
Back to back. Like,
Whoa.
well, I mean, no, like, you know.
Other songs in between?
No.
What?
Like literally every song, and it was always this bait and switch. Is like, okay, we've had enough of that, and then next minute back into Teenage Dirtbag, and like some people were like, this is too much. Like I can't handle this. But I was like,
this.
no, I love this. This is genius. So he took that and just took it as far as he could, and yeah, look, I'm sure there's some people who went to that gig who refuse to listen to that song anymore, but not me. I love it.
They're telling this same story, but not with as much of an optimistic
they're
slant
like,
on
he
the
just
memory.
ruined it for me. It was
Anyway, I do have a photo of me clean shaven.
Oh, yes.
And I think you might. Yeah, I think you're going to make audible sounds.
Okay. That's usually how I make sound. Whoa!
I knew it. Audible sounds.
Oh
but
my God. Wow. Holy moly.
Do you put these podcasts on YouTube as well as?
Well, this is the first one, so that's a question that's yet to be answered.
Because we a lot of people put their podcasts on YouTube, and then they go back and put little pictures up.
Yeah, we can definitely do
things that they're speaking about.
Yeah.
So I can send you this, and you can show everyone else what you're laughing at.
Please do.
Which is my face looking like a fuckboy. My clean-shaven fuckboy face.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's phenomenal. We need the visual. The people need to see this.
It's funny. I often forget that I have plenty of people in my life that have never known me without at least a beard, if not the beard and the long hair. And I'm surprised often I'm surprised at how surprised people are that I even existed without. Like, I feel like some people just assume like I came out of my mum just with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it matches the person they know me to be.
Right.
But the funny thing is, obviously I've changed, but I was pretty much this person. I feel like once you have long hair and a beard.
I think that's a cheeky dog outside.
Cheeky dog trying to get in on the podcast.
Yeah.
Once you have long hair and a beard, and especially the dreadlocks, and kind of have a bit more of like a, like alt kind of look, people expect your personality to be a little bit kind of left of center too. So that's their expectation is, he's going to be a bit of a quirky individual. But when I looked like that, clean-shaven version of myself, there was almost, I felt like other people's perception of me, they felt there was like a lack of, didn't make sense to them.
Yeah.
That I would talk about, like, not that I've really spoken about anything groundbreaking during this podcast, but, if I was going to talk about my, my views on like extraterrestrials, and I look like a Cotton On, like I'm in the Cotton On catalog, then it's not on brand.
No. Well, hey, look, they might do a complete shift and just get real esoteric, sell some threads to some young hippies, but I doubt it. I don't
Tree
know.
of life.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, just to wrap up my little Soundwave story.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. It flowed. It's good. After Iron Maiden finished playing, they cranked Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. And I just remember strolling, dancing through the arena and just like kicking the like hundreds of thousands of plastic cups.
I think it's like kicking other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kicking, other ne'er-do-wells. No, I just remembered like traipsing through this field of plastic cups while Always Look on the Bright Side of Life played.
Yeah, nice. What venue was that in?
Like Sydney Olympic Park.
Oh, okay, in Sydney.
Yeah.
They didn't bring Soundwave up to Newcastle to do their own one?
Oh, no, it was a big deal.
Who else was on that lineup?
That was Soundwave 2011, so I saw Primus for the first time. That was pretty cool. The Sword, Dimmu Borgir played. God, Slayer. Get this. This is before Jeff Hanneman died, one of the guitarists. He died from, I think, necrosis. He was bitten by a spider.
Whoa.
And it fucking killed him.
Whoa.
Which is the most metal thing ever. And yeah, Slayer was set to do all of 2011, the Soundwave concerts. And they played all the shows but one. And that was the Sydney show. And they were going to play at about 4 p.m. Everyone is keen as fuck. I am, I'm like 16. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to see one of the greatest thrash metal bands of all time. I'm so fucking hyped for this. And a good 15 minutes go by and no one's on the stage. And everyone's like, what's going on? And then, I don't know if it was Kingsmill. It was someone from Triple J came out and they were like, yeah, Tom Array has got an ear infection. Unfortunately, Slayer's not going to be able to play today. And the crowd lost their fucking shit. A bunch of angry, drunk Slayer fans, dude.
Wow.
My little 16-year-old self who'd never been to a music festival before was just in awe. I actually still have videos of the occasion on my old YouTube channel because people are like burning rubbish. They're burning their Slayer shirts. They're like throwing bins over the barricade and just this volley of drinks being hurled at the stage. It was insane. It was insane.
If it was like 15 minutes, that shows that they were there.
Yeah, and they're like, how are we going to break this to them?
Like they were in the venue, because if they weren't in the venue, they would have told everyone earlier.
Straight up, yeah.
They would have told them before the band. Well, actually, though, it's potential they would have known earlier, but they didn't want any of the other bands to have to deal with the repercussions of having an angry crowd in front of them.
Yeah, there is a delicate sense of timing involved in these things.
Yeah, we're like, well, they will get angry because it's last minute, but if we know they're going to react in some way, but it's not really fair on whoever was before them to rile them up before that. So let's just keep it condensed, because then Slayer was probably going to play for like 2 hours anyway.
Oh, no, I think it was because it was an earlier slot. It was probably an hour.
Well, they're going to play for an hour, so at least then these people can have an hour to burn through all their anger and not have someone on stage to take it out
to receive that.
To throw fucking Molotov cocktails at
I wonder.
Nickelback or something.
I can't recall who was on the stage next to him, but yeah, poor sods.
Yeah. Speaking of, we could get topical. Speaking of which, because we're fresh off the news about the drummer from Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins, passing away. Yeah. What's your connect? Are you a big Foo Fighters guy?
Oh man, I have a love-hate relationship with them. I've been thinking about that over the weekend. Obviously growing up as a alternative rock, metal, punk, prog fan, there's schools of thoughts within those subcultures where like, Foo Fighters are great, or like Foo Fighters are fucking shit sellouts. But no, they definitely touched me. I love their first two albums. The color and the shape like made a pretty big impact on me at age 17 thereabouts. And Dave Grohl was always inspiring as this multi-instrumentalist kick-ass drummer. So I followed the Fooies for a bit, and I saw them in the same year in 2011. They came out and did, I think, whatever that arena is, All Phones, or, it gets rebranded every couple of years. Kudos Bank, yeah. And they came out. That was an epic show. It was Stonefield, Fucked Up, who are this Canadian hardcore punk band, and that like turned me onto punk rock like in a massive way. Yep. This like overweight, sweaty, shirtless lead singer just like running through the crowd, smashing beer cans against his head. Tenacious D. And then
Rigagoo, Rigagoo.
And then the Foo Fighters. So that was like an epic concert.
Oh, mate. Yeah. So good. Yeah, Foo Fighters, I liked, because my dad loves the Foo Fighters. So my dad's a drummer, and my dad has been a drummer in The Church, the band, Australian band The Church, for decades. Name drop. So I think in particular because I actually broke the news to my dad because I knew that would affect him quite a lot, especially because he's a drummer,
Mm.
and especially because my dad has really, especially Dave Grohl, my dad, similar to yourself in terms of that multi-instrumental kind of musical maestro, wizard, visionary. My dad is of a similar mold, I feel.
Mm.
But yeah, I think my dad was pretty affected by it. But my dad's always thought my music taste was a bit lame because he's not really into like, Seattle grunge. Because Audio Slave, Chris Cornell, that was like my vibe when I was a teenager. And
Wait, he's not into grunge, but he's into the Foo Fighters.
well, they were. I think for a while, Foo Fighters were like our Venn diagram crossover.
Yeah.
Where I liked him and he liked him, so we could relate. And I definitely loved that album that had the dark and the light side. What was that? That was
One by One, or
it had the two
Echo, Silence, Patience,
Yeah,
Grace.
Echo, Silence, and Patience, and
Grace.
that's it. Man, we should probably do the research on this because it's like really underwhelming. I'm like, I love the Foo Fighters. What was that? All these Foo Fighters people are listening like, yeah, fucking yeah. But so I know songs. I know the song on that album, Echoes and Silence, Patience and Grace.
That was The Pretender, wasn't it?
The song, yeah, but the song on that, which is absolutely that I play on the uke sometimes, is called Home.
I don't know if I know that one.
That's a really soft, beautiful song. I think when they play it in concert, Grohl just plays it on the keys.
Oh, okay.
Just brings that spotlight down to him, gives the band members a 5-minute break. And obviously Next Year, remember, was the theme song to that show, Ed TV. Or Ed in the 90s.
I don't know either of these references.
Yeah, there was a show called I don't know if it was short-lived, but it was a show called Ed, and it was like a fun comedy drama show that was on Channel 10, and the Foo Fighters song Next Year. Do you know that song?
No.
It's like the chorus is, I'll be coming home next year. It's quite poppy, quite light, and it was a theme song to a show. And I think as a teenager, as a preteen, most of the songs I liked, I heard them in movies first.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that's how I like that song. Like the Goo Goo Dolls, Iris.
Oh.
And I don't want the world see me. Never saw the movie it was in, but I knew it was from a movie. And because I was more of a movie kid, not a music kid, because I grew up around music, so it wasn't as novel for me.
Right, yeah.
I was always about the performance.
Yeah.
But then once I heard Audio Slave Like a Stone, that was a moment for me. I thought, who is this? And then I went to my mum for a birthday and I say, I want this CD, this Audio Slave. I heard about them. And my mum bought it and she's like, Chris Cornell. This is the singer of Soundgarden.
Mm-hmm.
My mum is totally into Stone Temple Pilots.
Okay, yeah. Grunge Mama.
Soundgarden, yeah. Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
She's like, he's singing from Soundgarden. I said, who's Soundgarden? She says, let me get you some CDs.
Yes.
And flash forward to when I was 16-year-old, I went and saw Chris Cornell solo at the Enmore Theatre with my girlfriend at the time.
Whoa.
And that was like, he came out and his voice is so good. No different to the... Occasionally some of the scratchy high stuff he can't hit, but it's like Dave Grohl, he's like... He's still
it's authentic.
He's still human, yeah. But that was amazing. That was so good. And then I also saw them. I never got to see Audio Slave. I would have loved to see Audio Slave.
Man.
Because they've got that rage bounce, the ragey bounce with the Chris Cornell frontman. And it was just the funkiest industrial rock grunge hybrid.
Yeah.
So I never got to see Audio Slave, but I got to see Soundgarden twice. I saw them once at the Big Top at Luna Park.
Yeah.
Someone I was seeing at the time got me tickets, and somehow I didn't even know they were in town. Because
isn't it funny when that happens and you're like,
they were
wait,
like,
what?
We're going to something. It's a surprise. And I was like, oh, okay.
What a surprise, dude.
Yeah, and I hadn't even gotten any tip-offs that Soundgarden were in town.
Oh,
so I saw them there, and then I also saw them at the old entertainment centre in Darling Harbour.
yeah, we went past there. My dad and I went and saw the last show of Hamilton in Sydney, which was phenomenal. One of the best musicals I've ever seen. And I've been really blessed in having a father that's cultivated those experiences, like growing up, like taking us to the theatre. And we drove past
Did you take a monocle?
No. It was in the shop that day.
Yeah.
No, but we went past the location of the old Entcent, and I was surprised to see it was apartment buildings and not an entertainment center anymore.
It is.
And there's like a McDonald's. Maybe there was always a McDonald's there, but yeah, I was like, how long did that last? And Dad was like, yeah, maybe 30 years, 35 years. Not that long in the scheme of things.
But they maybe not exactly where the old entertainment center was, but in that area, they've replaced it. It's the ICC. It's the International Convention Center.
Okay.
So it's huge.
Right.
It's huge. I think, I'm not sure, but they can have up to like 9 or 10 like expos and like international
At once.
Yeah.
Holy
They
shit.
have so many spaces in that area. And also because the type of clients that hire out those spaces are like elite global / high-end businesses.
Yeah.
And they're not paying that's in their budget to hire venues. It's just a cash cow.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, but back to Chris
You
Cornell.
saw Soundgarden there.
Saw Soundgarden at the one of their reunion get back together tours. And the last time I saw Chris Cornell perform was at the Sydney Opera House.
Okay.
Acoustic solo.
Oh.
Acoustic solo.
House. In like the main
opera
chamber,
house.
dude. Wow.
With my mum.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And he played the Chris Cornell when he does his solo acoustic, when he did his solo acoustic, I'm sure he's doing them in
heaven.
Heaven / the afterlife. He always throws in covers. So if anyone's listening, Chris Cornell covers online, YouTube, check out Imagine, check out I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston, check out Billie Jean, Michael Jackson, check out there's another one I'm forgetting that pops. But and then the day that it was announced that he passed away, I just saw on Chris Cornell's Instagram that still runs. They posted a photo of him and Taylor Hawkins actually.
Right.
But yeah, the day that Chris Cornell passed away, that was my big celebrity. That him and Robin Williams were the ones that really hit me in a way that I felt like I knew them because I'm a lyrics guy. So I went to all the places that he sung about, all the other realms that he tapped into and all the ballads where he wrote about a character, but it was real to him, you know what I mean? But the day that I found out that Chris Cornell passed away was the day I found out that I hadn't listened to his last solo album. So I ran myself a bath and listened to his final solo album, Higher Truth, in the bath the day he passed away.
Wow.
From start to finish, in order, like weeping.
Yeah.
And that is that's an under-listened to album.
That is a lovely
opinion.
album because you recommended it to me and I put it on, some months ago and I was just, like there's no words. It's just so sweet.
So sweet and so, it's like this somber optimism that he has. He strikes this beautiful middle ground between, it's not darkness, but it's just somber, but it's realistic. There's a song, Dead Wishes, which I think I sent you, and it's literally there's 2 songs in the album like this, Dead Wishes and Wrong Side, and it's pretty much in the space of a song, it's someone's entire life. It's like this time lapse of someone's life from start to finish, and he just wraps it up perfectly.
Wow.
But yeah, Higher Truth, nice album, and I love talking about music.
You and me both, man.
Yeah.
I just had a memory. Something in me over the weekend really wanted to listen to the Smashing Pumpkins. I hadn't listened to them in a while, and they were pretty big for me.
Yep.
In fact, when
Billy C.
I remember,
huge wrestling fan.
and I was, yes, you bridged the gap between music and wrestling, 2 of our huge passions. But before we open Pandora's box, I've got a couple of memories that are coming to me right now. I remember during my first or second week of university, like nearly 10 years ago, me and 2 other friends who you've met, Toby and Alex, or you've at least met Alex, we sort of decided in English class, the end of high school, we wanted to form a band. We're all 3 guitarists, so I picked up bass. They're on guitar. We need a drummer. Put some drummer wanted posters up around the uni.
How old are you?
I'm 18, turning 19. And I get a text message within 15 minutes of putting up the last poster from this fellow named Sam. Sam's like, let's meet up. So we meet up the following Monday, and he's like, I asked this question to everyone, what are your 3 favorite bands? And I'm like, whoa, because I've just discovered punk rock and I always loved metal, but now there's this new influence and I also like pop. And I'm like, that's a hard question. He's like, all right, straight up, the Ramones, Dream Theater, and Smashing Pumpkins. And I'm like, holy shit, you have just listed 3 of my favorite bands right off the bat. You're in.
And then he's got no rhythm and you're like, damn it.
Oh, no, he's got rhythm. Sam Island, one of the best drummers I've ever worked with. Phenomenal. What a mind. What a dude. Smashing Pumpkins. I was trying to think when Dad and I went to Sydney recently and we were talking about the Ent-Cent, and I was like, I've seen someone there, but who was it? And it was the Smashing Pumpkins. I think that's the only rock show I've seen there. And they played with Wolfmother. I was freshly 18, so I
can see the man's eye.
Yeah. So, I could like get some drinks and stuff. I almost didn't make it actually. So as a kid, I had this condition. I had febrile convulsions. So if my temperature got too high, I'd like have a fit and pass out.
Wow.
Often wake up in an ambulance or in hospital.
Wow.
And yeah, that's pretty intense. Much more intense for the people around you than you yourself. Like I found my baby tape a year or 2 ago, and my dad is like documenting, like it's just me crawling around on the floor and he's talking about my first convulsion where they think I'm fucking dead and they call the ambulance, and I'm
that's
just
on
like
camera.
passed out. Not me, not the actual experience, like in the aftermath.
He's
and
referring to
Dad's
it.
just like filming me going around,
Jesus.
and he's just describing the experience. Like it's an amazing artifact of the mid-90s. Anyway, point is, I had my last convulsion 2 days before I was meant to go and see the Smashing Pumpkins. So I'm 18. I haven't had a convulsion for like 9 years. They say you kind of grow out of it, but then I just have one last hurrah when I'm 18. And I just passed the fuck out in the hallway one night. I'm like trying to crawl to the bathroom and I just collapse. And I wake up and my family's around me and they're like, oh my God. And I'm just thinking like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to go to see the Smashing Pumpkins. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But I just, sheer power of will, I'm like, I'm not missing the Smashing Pumpkins. And so I get better enough to go and see the Smashing Pumpkins play with Wolfmother, and it was a great gig. It was so good. He did a cover of Space Oddity by David Bowie,
okay.
which was awesome.
He strikes me as the type of guy that would speak a lot between the songs.
Not really. In fact, not that I remember. However, Andrew Stockdale from Wolfmother, that gig, he went on this huge tirade against Triple J. He was like, fuck Triple J. They say they support independent artists. And like he went on this 5-minute spiel and his bandmates are just like kind of like, cringing off
Was
to the side.
the gig wasn't sponsored by Triple J, was it?
No. I think they'd had some sort of falling out. Anyway,
Sure.
I forget where I was going with this.
Still a good story.
Yeah, there's a few stories in there.
Yeah. Back to that 3 favorite band. Did I ever ask you that nice, like, it's like a nice getting to know you showstopper question about the dream gig.
Oh, like what's your dream gig?
Well, no, it's if you're curating a gig
Yeah.
where, because I think this is an easier way to ask your 3 favorite bands because it's got more parameters. So
Right.
you're booking 3 acts, dead or alive, solo band, whatever. And you're going to have 1 act that plays in the afternoon when the sun's setting. You're going to have 1 act playing prime time. And then you're going to have 1 act who jams into the night.
Ooh.
Now, I already know mine, so I'm going to say mine
Please.
to give you like a springboard.
Yep.
So afternoon, sun setting, chill, people still chatting, people still mingling, and the vibe is still like swaying. Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Oh, dude.
Is This Love?
Great choice.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Prime time, showstopper, a lot of talking between the songs, getting people up on stage, that kind of concert. Elvis Presley. And then jamming into the night. And this is actually for the user experience. I don't actually often listen to this artist, but I know this would be a scene. James Brown and anyone in his band.
Dude.
Assortment of all his band members.
Oh.
Oh, do that here. Yeah, just because that's a band. Anyone that plays with James Brown, they can play. They could play for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Just riffing and jamming and who knows? Maybe Bob Marley, maybe Elvis. They may make their way back to the mic and they start riffing and Elvis starts getting a bit more funky.
Oh, ain't it funky?
And I'll do one more while you're.
I've got a couple, but there's one.
So I'll do one more inspiration, but this is actually in real. This is a real lineup that existed once. After I worked in a summer camp in America, I was seeing someone at the time, and we were looking for things to do, and we saw that one of the days we were going to be in New York because the camp was near New York, 3 hours from New York. We saw that in Brooklyn there was this 1-day festival called 90s Fest.
Oh,
I think I might have told you about
Fest.
this. Yeah. So sponsored by Nickelodeon, all these like people in mascot costumes.
Sponsored by Nickelodeon.
Sponsored by Nickelodeon. That. There's all these like Tommy from the Rugrats and, Ickis from Our Real Monsters.
Wow.
People in like these mascot suits. And they were all walking around. But there's no kids there. There's all these like stoners who love Nickelodeon, right? And it's in like an industrial area. So it's pretty like, it's like Williamsburg, it's hipstery kind of industrial gentrification vibe. Lineup was Smash Mouth, Naughty by Nature, Coolio,
wow.
Gangsta's Paradise,
Fantastic Voyage,
and Salt and Pepper.
Oh,
push it real good. And it was emceed by Pauly Shore.
Oh, of Biodome fame.
And he comes on in between the bands and just like talks to people in the crowd. Hey, buddy. And then, but you see Pauly Shore get progressively more stoned as the day goes on. And then I think at the end, I can't remember who was last. I think it might have been Naughty by Nature or Salt and Pepper. I can't remember. But when Naughty by Nature were on, because there's quite a few of them, there's like 5 or 6 of them in the group. And but they all had their families there. So the whole stage was Naughty by Nature and all their families and all their kids, on shoulders. It was like 40 people on the stage. And then Coolio came out, Salt and Pepper came out, Pauly Shore came out. They'll get backstage. And yeah, it was just such a random, funny, silly experience.
What a beautiful slice of nostalgia.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Are you close to your dream
I'm ready.
gig?
I'm ready.
Always ready for his dream gig. Now, are you going to go chronologically?
No, I'm going to go backwards.
Oh.
So, jamming into the night, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. one of the greatest bands, live bands ever to exist, in my opinion. I've seen him like 8 or 9 times.
I've never heard of from which country?
From Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne.
Have you been living under a fucking rock, mate?
Mate,
Like, what the fuck?
Did you hear the 3 bands that I just said? I said
true.
Bob Marley, Elvis, and James
True,
Brown. I'm
okay,
clearly living in the
okay.
past over here.
Well, holy shit. I'm going to have to get you up to speed because these guys span genres like Concorde spans the globe until... Well, hopefully they don't crash and burn.
You're
like the
really
Concorde.
reaching for that analogy.
Yeah, look, I was... there has to be some metaphor, simile, one of them.
Analogy, I think.
Analogy, thank you. So they're great. The great thing is they're alive, so we don't have to dig them up, and reanimate the corpses. Because I'm sure that would be quite an involved process in the lead up to said event.
Where you going? You're going to find corpses?
Yes, Mo, I'm going to find corpses.
So yeah, we don't need to find corpses for them to play. But yeah, they go from jazz to metal to like this weird hybrid blues to like they put out an album recently called Made in Timeland, which has like kind of I'm pretty hopeless when it comes to EDM genres, but some EDM elements, like they're just
Say the name of the band again.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Rolls off the tongue.
Amazing. They've just announced their 20th album, which they put out in 10 years. So their work ethic's insane. In 2017, they put out 5 albums in 1 year. That was their... And like 4 out of 5 of them are really good. 4 out of 5 ain't bad. So anyway, I would have King Gizzard jamming into the night because they're psychedelic. They're great. They also have a really amazing... what is he? They used to have 7 band members, 2 drummers, but the second drummer left. So now there's 6 of them. So the unofficial, official 7th member of the band is their graphic designer, Jason Galea. He does all their album art and he's kind of the reason I got into glitch art, like doing video stuff, because his projections are just otherworldly, cool 90s VHS static.
He sounds like the equivalent of Terry Gilliam from Monty Python.
Yes, he's the Terry Gilliam of King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard. And it's interesting you make that comparison because they do have that very erratic, silly Monty Python-esque
cartoonesque,
where Monty Python is, their main field is comedy and they dip into music. King Gizzard's kind of the inverse of that. So they'd be jamming late at night. Prime time, I would have Talking Heads playing. They're like, what's that famous concert? Stop Making Sense era, like their big production.
I love how in your curation you get to tell them what they're going to play. You're like, that one, can you do that set? They're like, we're artists. You're like, no, this is my dream gig. I'm the head.
Look, I trust David Byrne's judgment. He's an amazing curator of all things artistic. So whatever he wants to do, I'll take a back seat. He did Stop Making Sense like 35, 40 years ago. So, but anyway, just watching that concert alone, that's a great live concert. If anyone hasn't seen it, Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads. I think it's like 85 maybe. And it's just beautiful. They build it from the ground up. Like the first song, David Byrne comes out with just like a boombox and a drumming, like a pre-recorded drum track, and it's just him on guitar. And then eventually other band members come out, like the bassist Tina Weymouth, one of the greatest bassists of all time. She comes out, starts grooving along, and then slowly but surely they build this whole like sort of, funk orchestra, and it's great. So prime time, Talking Heads.
Yep.
And the early slot, let's have the Beach Boys.
Wow.
With all Wilson brothers still alive.
Ba 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 Baran.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah.
I remember that was my.
Sweet
you know how I was talking before about how I knew songs from movies.
Yeah.
The Ba Ba Baran was. I remember that song. The first time I ever heard that Ba Baran song, and I would love it if you know this movie.
Hit me.
Surf Ninjas. Straight to VHS.
I wonder why. Damn, that sounds good. It sounds like I need to find a copy of it.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. That sounds like a gig.
That sounds like a gig to me.
as you were speaking, and this is like not for like this is not like a diversity token or a symbol, but actually more for the balance of masculine, feminine. I was actually thinking about my afternoon pick, and I was like, yeah, I mean, Bob Marley, Elvis, James Brown, like that's a pretty masculine kind of energy.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, okay, but I would like to swap someone out, but not as a token symbol. I was just maybe thinking about my own preference to see a male and whether whether that's like a subconscious subliminal trait I have, and like to call myself out on that. And then I thought, okay, yeah, no, as an audience member, if I was in that show, I would have liked to see a feminine energy holding the space and leading. So I think I'm going to swap out Bob Marley.
Okay.
And I'm going to I'm going to trade in of an equal stature, Erykah Badu.
Oh, bro.
Straight swap. That's not a sub. That's going to be a vibe.
Good fucking choice. Wow. Yeah, I had a similar thought when I was saying, I was like, these are all white dudes. Like, that's great. Yeah, but again, it's like, I don't want to make this a tokenistic thing. Those are the things that came to mind. I guess it just speaks to me, my upbringing, my, to quote my barely 1/3 completed communication degree, my cultural habitus. Yeah, but this is just off the top of my dome. Like if I sat with it, I'm sure there's someone who I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is that lineup I told you, I've had that for a while.
Yeah, okay.
So you're answering that question on the first go.
I might bust it out in subsequent podcasts and see how other people go for it and see how my sensibilities develop or
it might evolve over time, or you could add different parameters. Like you could, because in my mind I assumed it was outdoors, but I didn't say that. But in my mind I'm assuming it's outdoors.
Yeah.
But someone else who doesn't go to outdoor gigs, if I said that, they might have just assumed it was like inside a venue.
Right.
And they would
and that's different.
pick based on an indoor experience. Not, for example, me, like when I was picking Bob Marley, I was like, Bob Marley, and you can see the sunset behind the stage. But other people wouldn't have made that assumption.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, you're in the, Horton Pavilion or something.
Yeah.
Because they often go to indoor gigs.
Yep.
And
it does change things.
Yeah, it's a good little, it's almost like an ink blot test.
Right.
Says a lot about you.
The Rorschach, yeah.
Yeah.
So, who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Well,
who's the GOAT?
To be honest, when I was a kid, I'd often fast forward through the matches.
Me too. Or just skip them entirely. I was much more about the banter.
All about the banter. So when I say my favorite wrestler, it's not about like technical skill or anything. It's just about the energy and the charisma they brought.
Right.
And not just because he passed away recently, but Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, like that character, the Razor Ramon character. I think I've sent you his first match, they put him up against someone that, because they don't want to distract from his debut, so they put him up against one of these like trainee wrestlers who doesn't even have a name.
Yeah,
and he just destroys him, and he's almost not even looking at the guy he's destroying. He's looking at the crowd, being like, "Yeah, you want like
I'm the next big fucking thing."
Like what?
Yeah.
And actually, like just before he starts the match, he throws his toothpick at the guy's face.
Oh.
And then while the guy's like, what the fuck? Then he hits him.
Boom.
Like there's just, and if you go and see all the
that's got to be like spur of the moment shit too.
Yeah.
And that's where the real magic happens.
On that same level, I feel like before Razor Ramon, I feel like that same archetype was Jake the Snake, where it was just like a venomous kind of, like a bad guy. You love to hate.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like the legacy, combined, like all round legacy combined with legacy,
like technical ability,
yeah,
charisma.
and reputation amongst the other wrestlers, from what I hear.
Oh yeah.
Also, the watchability of all the interviews and that. Undertaker, baby.
Oh dude.
Undertaker.
Undeniable.
The Taker.
That was so fucking. I mean, it had to happen, but I remember I had never watched a WrestleMania live until WrestleMania 20, whatever, where The Undertaker lost to Brock Lesnar.
Oh, the big.
That was fucking
his big,
sad.
big goodbye.
That was fucking sad.
You've heard him speak about it, right?
No.
Oh, well, I heard him speak about it, and, not there's, and, for the people that aren't into wrestling that are listening,
the streak.
Yeah, so go and have a look at The Undertaker, and there's probably a highlights reel or a montage. I'm sure he's in the Hall of Fame already. So great wrestler, and normally what happens when a wrestler retires, there's always a bit of conversation about how are you going to bow out. You don't want to bow out just getting completely walked over. It's got to be a hopefully it's going to have some integrity, dignified, which is, if you go back into the Montreal screw job, Bret Hart time, that's why that is such a big issue, because it was a high profile case of behind the scenes, someone wanting to go out in a different way that they wanted him to go out. But with The Undertaker, I heard him speak about it, and it was a very, very professional understanding of the passing the buck, and that losing was fine because it's almost an honor. It's like in a movie, like a bad guy or someone dies, and it's them dying in the film isn't a sign that the people making the film don't respect the character. It's more, but how they do it.
We all gotta go sometime.
Yeah, they give them their moment.
Yeah, and I guess to contextualize, WrestleMania each year, biggest wrestling event in the WWE universe at least, and for 20 plus years, Undertaker, he was on every WrestleMania card and he won every match. So he had this streak.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so that's why it was sad to me, because he did like 25 years of WrestleMania, won every match. And so every WrestleMania, someone's got the latest number. It's like 18-0, go Undertaker. And then, I just remember watching it at my friend's, we got the whole pay-per-view thing, and just saw him get wrecked by Brock Lesnar in like no time. And it just, to me, it was just a bit like, oh man, Brock Lesnar, like the least charismatic, shittest wrestler. Nah. It
didn't fly with you.
Yeah. But hey, personal taste,
Yeah. I would say honorable mention, Shawn Michaels.
Fucking A. The showstopper.
Probably loses points because he's a bit of a dick.
Oh.
And not like a Razor Ramon dick, like an actual dick.
Yeah.
But just the charisma.
Oh, dude.
Was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like the white and red pants, sexy boy.
Yep. It's not often you get a wrestler who has the same theme song all throughout their career. I think Shawn Michaels, Undertaker.
No, Undertaker. He changed when he.
Oh no, he did. He did the American Badass thing.
When he did American Badass, it got all Linkin Park
you
or something.
It now. I think it was Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. Okay, curveball question for you.
Hey.
Wrestling question. Favorite manager?
Oh, okay.
Or non-wrestling
wrestler.
personality.
Oh, geez.
Don't say Brother Love. I love you.
Who was a good manager?
I can list.
Please. Yeah, like I'm thinking Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer is
Paul Bearer is...
He was freaky.
Oh, yeah.
He was so freaky.
Paul Bearer.
Paul Heyman. Jimmy Hart. The mouth Jimmy Hart. Yeah.
He was...
I think that was just a bit before my time. Like I know he's got the megaphone.
Yeah, there's Bobby the Brain Newman, who was the manager of Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, Andre the Giant. He was real good. Those are vintage. I think if you asked any wrestling, anyone that has watched it from 70s and 80s all the way through,
Yeah.
they would say Bobby the Brain Newman or Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart's probably up there. Not necessarily a manager, but Mean Gene.
Mean Gene.
Mean Gene's a VIP because he
he's-
just brings that. He brings that shock.
that class as well.
Yeah.
What do you mean nothing means nothing?
Nothing means nothing.
Dude, yeah, I feel like I'm missing someone. Like the only ones that come to mind, I jumped on, Attitude Era, late 90s through to Ruthless Aggression Era and then sort of tapped out. Yeah, so no one's really like standing out to me.
I feel like we're going to have to extract the wrestling portion of this podcast and then make it its own episode
Sure.
because there's so many in-jokes.
Yeah.
That
No, there's a lot. And I
other
feel like we're
people-
going to lose people who are just like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah,
Like, I don't
exactly.
know. But yeah, I mean, wrestling, I suppose, to me, it was very inspiring in so many ways, I wanted to grow my hair long. I wanted to listen to like rock music.
It does have
performer.
some parallels with music in terms of
Oh yeah,
the performative side of
the rock
of
and
being in
wrestling
front of
connection
people.
is
Yeah,
strong. So in terms of my journey as a musician, as a performer, like wrestling is like there at the ground floor, as an inspiration.
definitely. Yeah, the some of my early wrestling memories were having a giant Smurf doll and wrestling on my trampoline as if it was the ring.
Wrestling on the trampoline, what a classic. Also, I just thought of my favorite manager.
Yeah.
My name is Armando Alejandro Estrada.
I don't know this person.
Oh, okay. Well, he was the manager for Umaga, the Samoan bulldozer.
Ooh.
Umaga.
This is after my time.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is like, I think 2005 they introduced
Yeah.
Umaga, and he was
Yeah.
just this fucking tank. I think he was maybe The Rock's cousin or something.
Yeah.
And then he died. He had like 3 years in WWE, ECW, and then he just fucking died like in his prime. But he had this great manager because he was like non-verbal, he was just this wild beast.
Yeah, I think I've seen
know.
photos. Do you have the face tattoos?
Yeah. But he had this like heaps, suit and fedora with Cuban cigars in his pocket, manager Armando Alejandro Estrada, and he always had.
He's
his
like the
big
guy.
spiel.
He goes and finds the freaks.
Yeah.
He's like the freak show. The guy who runs the freak show.
100%,
Like,
yeah.
step right up. We got the
Yeah.
amazing.
Because that's the thing. Like wrestling started in the sort of carnival scene. Like it very much, you kind of look at it and it's just this weird evolution of circus culture.
know
it's
what?
like the freak show or the
I just-
strongman all combined.
I reckon you and I should approach some of the independent wrestling associations in Australia and see if they need some commentators.
Oh, dude, we'd be so good at that. I've
reckon
been to
we'd be
Newcastle Wrestling once and once only, and it was so much fun.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
so much fun.
Yeah, so on the
Oh, that would be my dream gig. Oh, and Jim Ross. Jim Ross. How can we go past Jim Ross?
Yeah, Jim Ross is great. Yeah, so there's Smurf wrestling on the trampoline. But what I would do is I'd take the VHS packet from the video shop and take it out to the trampoline and then redo all the matches.
Oh my God.
But
yes.
there were a couple times where I would leave it outside and then it would rain. And then I would take it back to the video shop and it would be all like wet. They'd be like, what the fuck have you been doing with this wrestling?
I love that.
And then my other memory, which is because I would collect the WWF at the time, Hasbro action figures.
Oh, yes. I've heard of this fabled collection. Of
Yeah.
yours.
But finally, the connection I have is actually an eBay recollection. The original collection I had got melted in a house fire when I was 15.
Oh, how tragic.
Yeah.
Did it, what, the house fire? What?
Yeah. It was a faulty electrical fire. No one was home.
Okay, good.
But yeah, they all melted together and I've recollected them since, but it doesn't feel the same.
And became the, what is it when all the Transformers combine?
Yeah. No, I did. I went through the rubble and they're all melted together in one giant hub. And at the time I was so upset because it was a traumatic experience. I didn't think I should have kept the melted clump. That would have been such a bloody
That's the ultimate wrestler.
artifact
Right
of the
there.
90s.
Yeah.
But I invented, because my brother and I played Warhammer.
Oh, dude, I recently found all my models.
What army did you collect?
Well, I played 40K, so
Loser.
fuck you. I started getting into fantasy and got the ogres, who are like a more recent addition.
Okay.
But I think I might have played one game of that. But
Yeah.
40K, come on, it's sci-fi.
Yeah, I wasn't really into I was more into fantasy because my dad got us into like Lord of the Rings and Monty Python, Holy Grail.
Yeah,
we were big on Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Men in Tights, or Prince of Thieves, or the one with the fox, which is weird. But yeah, so the Warhammer dice game element I brought over to my wrestling figures, and I invented a whole game with the dice where you could play and you don't know who's going to win based on, you know, what moves they do. And I came up with a whole system.
That's brilliant.
And then I taught my friends how to play it. And then on Friday nights, I would have like 2 or 3 friends who lived in the local area. And sometimes one of them would come, all of them would come. But on TNT or TCM, the Foxtel channel, they would have 3 hours, and it would be WCW Friday night Nitro, I think.
I thought it was Monday Nitro.
Friday night, what was the other show WCW did? Nitro and something else. But anyway, there was 3 hours of WCW. So we'd play for an hour or two, and then we'd watch.
Oh,
and
classic.
And yeah, it was fun. I tried to think about if I could remember the rules of the game with the dice, and I got the basics, but it could.
That sounds like real fun. And again, combining 2 of our great loves into one.
Yeah.
So
I would always, doing the theme songs was always my favorite.
Oh yeah, dude, the entrances, like I did the whole like wrestling on the trampoline like with my sister growing up, and like we'd always do the entrances and we'd have her and made up teams, and it was great. And I did that with a bunch of other friends. I'm curious, what did a typical weekend look like for you as a teenager?
A typical weekend for me looked like go home on a Friday from the age of, let's say, 12 to 16 or 17, go home on a Friday. I had I generally had a girlfriend through most of high school, so probably spent time with someone I was seeing. Saturday morning, drive to anywhere pretty much between Sydney all the way out to anywhere in the Sydney metro area, all the way down to Wollongong, sometimes Nowra, Newcastle, Bathurst, to play soccer.
Oh, wow.
Because I played in the New South Wales Premier League.
Damn.
So do that on Saturday and then go home, probably get home, leave the house at probably like 8 or 9 and then end up getting home like, late afternoon, early afternoon. And then Sunday was normally a chill day, probably watch some English Premier League football at nighttime. Soccer was pretty much my life.
So how long did you do the soccer thing for? And how did you get to be in the New South Wales Premier League? That sounds like a big deal.
Yeah, it was pretty quick actually, because I wasn't really into football or sport really. My family didn't really push us into it. I think my mum was dating a guy when I was like 6 who loved rugby league, and he was like, "I should get him into rugby." And I played 1 season of rugby league and I hated it. It was way too much contact, and I was like a very aggressive kid. So like I didn't understand the whole like, and now, I think it might be like that sliver of like moldy blood that I have, which is like, I see red. Like if if we're touching me, if someone's touching me and there's adrenaline, the rules go out the window. And so I think I was actually quite a good like tackler when I played rugby when I was 6, but didn't mean I enjoyed it. I felt like it was too quick to be being like lots of physical contact for me, I think. I remember one time there was a team we played, and I remember vividly that they wore like a bright green jersey. And in a moment, you're going to find out why I remember so vividly. Jersey and shorts. That they had this big redhead kid. And when I say big, he was like obese for a child at 6.
Right.
And the entire game was just a little bit of fumbly play, ball to him. He runs with kids hanging off him. Try. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And I managed to tackle them all.
Yeah.
I managed to get him down because all my teammates were going for his middle. I was like, you got to go for the legs. And I got him. I pulled him down and he sat on my face. His big, fat, redhead butt sat on my face, and I remember all the parents laughing. I remember the sound of it.
No.
And I remember that last moment where that bright green pair of shorts coming straight from my face. And just the moment before the contact came, I remember thinking, I'm never playing rugby league again.
Wow.
And I never did.
Damn.
Flash forward to 9 years old, going to England with my dad and my stepmom to visit my auntie, who lived in London at the time. My dad lived in England for a year when he was younger. After his mum passed away, he lived with an uncle or a second cousin. And I might be getting that wrong. But my dad lived in England for a time with a relative who took him to games at the Highbury Stadium, which is the stadium of Arsenal Football Club.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad loved it. And that year that he lived there, they also won 2 competitions in the same year, which they call the double, FA Cup and the league at the time. And then decades went by and my dad stopped kind of really following football. But then when we went back, as a touristy thing, let's go to an English game. So my dad managed to get my brother and I and him and my uncle Mike tickets to a game at Highbury Stadium. And I'd never been to really live sport at that level before. And so as a kid, it was like, what is this? This is amazing. And so I think just before that, I'd started playing soccer on the school oval a little bit and started to enjoy that. And then this stepped that up a notch. Then we traveled for about 2 or 3 weeks through Europe with a rent-a-car, and it was about like, rewind. Arsenal ended up winning the same 2 competitions that same year that we were there. So my dad's like, I'm a good luck charm, you know? And then we all it was like a bonding experience. We all then decided, hey, let's be Arsenal supporters.
Yeah.
And then we traveled through Europe, and it was actually about it was within the month leading up to the France 98 World Cup. So every country we went through, it was all, you go to Germany and it's like a, billboard of the German team on like a, whatever company sponsors them. And then it's like, get behind the team. And then, we went back to Australia, went back to school, kept playing soccer on the oval, was loving it, playing soccer in the backyard with my brother. France World Cup happens, France win, France have like 3 or 4 Arsenal players that we saw in the stadium when we went. And then soccer season rolls around and I was like, Dad, I think I want to play soccer. So I signed up for a soccer team. I'm the goalkeeper because my brother is in the backyard kicking the ball at me because he's older than me and whatever.
Yep. Sign
up to be goalkeeper, end up playing for the Gladesville Ravens, under 10s Division 3. And we got hammered all the time. And I hadn't played sport
Quote
before.
the Raven.
Yeah, quote the Raven. Fuck you all. Because I also, like I said, I was quite a volatile kid, which a lot of people don't really expect. But I was, so like every time a goal went in, it was like the worst thing that ever happened. I was like crying a lot. Yeah.
Oh.
And so then, but I thought I was quite good for someone that hadn't had any training. But so this is really long-winded, but whatever.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast. Yeah, fuck you, Joe Rogan. You do fucking 5 hours. I do it too. But what happened was that our club, Gladesville Ravens, they had like a rep wing to the club. We were in the like local club, but they had a rep wing in the women's. So all the boys teams were in the local comp, but their women's team had a really strong strong presence. So
right. Why is that it was
I'm not sure.
Just one. Okay.
Well, they applied. I think they just had a good batch of teams for a while, and so they applied to go up in the divisions, which you have to do, and you have to like prove you have like high quality changing rooms and stadiums and lights and stuff.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, the women's team. So as a result, the women's team needed a goalkeeper coach for all their rep women and girls, and then the goalkeeper coach, to make up the numbers and make it viable, they invited all the goalkeepers from all the boys teams to join the goalkeeping training sessions.
Oh.
And the guy who was doing the sessions, his name was Jim Fraser. And Jim Fraser was the goalkeeper for the Australian national team when they qualified for the World Cup in 1970.
No shit.
And before 2006, that was the last time we qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah, yeah.
So when he was coaching me,
holy moly,
he was the only guy that had ever played in the World Cup for Australia as a goalkeeper.
Damn.
So I improved a lot in that 1 year playing local. When that season finished, next season came around, someone was like, oh, you should go trial for the rep team, local rep team, Ride City Gunners. I was like, oh, okay. And I went down and I made the team. So I went the second.
Ride on.
Ticket to ride. The second year ever I played soccer, I was playing in like a rep league, and then continued the coaching with the good coach, and played for that team for 2 years. I got scouted by a team that was, because we were in like the third tier of the rep system, and I got scouted by Blacktown City, who were in the top tier of the rep system. And the guy came up to my dad after the game and said like, hey, we want you to come trial for us next year.
Ooh.
So then went and trialed for them, made the team. Their goalkeeper coach was like on the next level, John Crawley, who's now the Socceroos goalkeeper coach.
Oh, wow.
And he was amazing because he has a psychology degree. So he was really into the psychology of goalkeeping and how you deal with mistakes. So it was like very... which has really helped me as a performer too.
That's amazing.
And then a lot of the guys I played with were already in the system where they were, they were on their way to be going to the AIS, Australian Institute of Sport, or they went to these like elite sporting schools. And so, yeah, you're playing against a lot of these. Everyone you're playing against is like of a very high quality.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I played at that level for about 3 or 4 years. And then because I was I injured my thumb. And so I took a season off playing in goals, and I was playing on the field.
What position were you in?
Kind of moved me around a bit, but I think I was playing striker.
Yep.
I ended up being top scorer for my team.
Dude.
Not that club, but the next club I moved to. And 4 goals, not a lot. We were still bottom of the table. But after that season of playing on the field, I realized I didn't want to play goalkeeper anymore. So then but I couldn't really play at the top level as a player because I wasn't training as a player the whole time. Yeah. So, it'd be like being a guitarist and then realizing you like the drums, but then it's like, oh, I'm not ready to play live with a band at a ticketed show. Okay, I'll go play open mic, or I'll go play, in my room,
in
whatever.
the shed, yeah.
So, but I didn't drop down too long, and then I started playing on the field, and then kept going at that kind of like good level, but not top tier. Some of my old friends are now playing in the A-League and or played for the Socceroos or whatever. And then tore my knee ligament.
Oh.
And while I was recovering from that, started comedy.
Aha.
And then never really went back to the whole soccer being your life.
Wow. Fascinating. Yeah, like I didn't know this about you until yesterday. You mentioned we were just talking about, I guess, like drinking culture growing up sort of thing. And then you mentioned that you were playing soccer in a sort of more than your average, Saturday morning game
Honestly,
thing.
me starting to play soccer, I mean, it's taken its toll on my body because I do have bad knees and I've probably not looked after myself in that way. But in terms of my emotional development, starting to play soccer was the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like very, I noticed myself, I get emotional actually when I think about it because like I had a lot of stuff happen when I was a kid that was quite emotionally, I'm not going to say traumatic because I think that word gets thrown about a bit, but like emotionally heavy. So actually having something to direct your emotional energy at and develop camaraderie with people, and that was really important. And that's why I've never really been one of those people that just blanket goes like, competitive sport is not good for kids because it teaches them that everyone's your rival. And I'm like, nah, there's so much good in there if you want there to be.
Dude, how's this? So I went home to my mom's place last weekend, and I was just going through my old things, which are all sort of like bundled together in like boxes and shit like that. And I found a letter written to me by my dad ahead of my first soccer game. And
Age
5.
Whoa.
It's the first time I've had a letter addressed to me, but Dad went to the trouble, like it's got the stamp there. It's like, 4th of April,
I need to meet your
2000.
dad, by the way.
You would love him. You two would get on like a house on fire. Yeah. You've got a lot of similarities. Yeah. So it's got the stamp, like 4th of April, 2000 or whatever. It's like, Lachlan, I'm, writing to you ahead of this first soccer game. And yeah, basically it was just like, you're going to learn the value of playing on a team and how it feels to share victories as well as to share defeat. And it's just like this beautiful little artifact. Handwritten, yeah. And yeah, I just like, I got a bit misty reading it. I was like, that's
nice.
so fucking sweet. And it's so sweet I still have it. Just this little memento.
Yeah. What was the name of the club?
A little milestone. St. Joseph's.
Was that the school you went to?
No, it wasn't the school I went to. There was a school, St. Joseph's, but yeah, the soccer club was just where like a lot of my friends
Was it the St.
played.
Joseph somethings?
St. Joey's. No.
Sometimes the cat they call themselves saints often.
Yeah, we were just the Joeys.
Joeys.
Yeah, so
nice.
we had like these like emerald green shorts and bright gold shirts, and I played
green and gold.
Yeah,
Aussie
green
style.
and gold. Yeah, mate. And I played for Joey's all through primary school until year 7, and that was my last season. And I was.
And is that when the kind of artistic music stuff started to be?
I guess so. That's when music became a thing. That's when Warhammer became a thing. Like I was really, and that's when I went to selective high school. So I was in this really, I was nerdy, let's say, and I just felt a serious disconnect, like, because I knew and was friends with and went to school with all my teammates all through primary school. But then I went to high school, that all changed. I'm playing with kids from like the local comprehensive high school. And my school's a public school as well. It's not like religious or private or anything like that, but it is selective. And so I'm hanging out with all these nerds. And then I come back and I just didn't have this connection with my teammates that I once did. And that makes a world of difference,
Yeah,
that's why I hated cricket.
Or you had the same connection, but you actually had deeper connections to hold up to these old ones and say, oh, wow, this is a new level of depth that I want to focus on.
Yeah, so I just felt a bit alienated and I was just like, eh. But I remember I had a similar thing. Like I remember I was about 10 and I'd always played like striker. I was a forward. Didn't score that many goals though. But then, one day I think we'd started doing subs because the games get longer as you get older. You can like play for longer. So I think when I'm about 10 years old, the game's like, they've increased in duration and we've started doing subs. And I get subbed onto fullback one time and I take to it. I just love playing fullback and, I can like get some of my aggression out when I'm just like defending and like going hard at people. So I really love that. And they even gave me a nickname. I was Pitbull. Because I just like fucking attack
Wait, was
people.
this before Pitbull?
This is before Pitbull.
And I'm using air quotes here. Before Pitbull, the musician, air quotes.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not fair. I'm sure he's actually a very talented guy in some ways. that I'm not aware of. I'm sure he's a great producer. You know, he's probably like a Timberland guy, where it's like this. What you hear him saying and doing is very simple, but he's probably, you know, got that you know, Jay-Z like entrepreneurial like mega mind of just you know, the same way that like Blink-182 were just business dudes and they were like, let's just be millionaires, and they did.
And now one of them's an advisor to NASA because of his passion in aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that wild?
But yeah, back to the soccer, the fullback, the pit bull, and
so that was fun. I felt valued, you know, I felt seen, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I need to urinate.
Yes. I say go do that.
Ad break. Now we're going to hear from your sponsors.
No, wait, hang on, hold up. Just wait just a second. Now, I realize this is going to sound a little strange. I've placed a soundbite of a glass filling up with some sort of thick, juicy liquid right after we declared a toilet break. And then our dear friend Tegan is going to take a sip from said glass and promote the show. Now, I didn't really think of this until my attention was irrevocably called to it. So rest assured, we're not making a joke about drinking urine. Maybe your mind wasn't even going to go there. Maybe that's just a reflection of who I am and where I am at. But I just wanted to jump on and make a little disclaimer that only the purest, choicest oranges were squozen for the juice that dear Tegan is about to drink. Thank you.
Juices flowing.
And we're back. This is Juices Flowing. Are your juices flowing? I hope so.
It's Monday morning here.
It is. But, yeah, I don't know. Monday morning's a construct.
Yeah, exactly right. Imagine that. Imagine a world where there were no... Could the planet operate? Could the human world operate without what we know as days? Because you can't plan things without days.
Well, they have their place, you know.
I would like to see...
Monday's a necessary evil. Not even an evil, it's just necessary.
I suppose because people would say, oh, it's based on the sun and it's based on movements of...
Well, it isn't. Like a day doesn't go for 24 hours. You know, there's a discrepancy there.
Yeah,
and so that, yeah, like it's just a vague.
Live in the now.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would be because I've spoken to like shift work people, police officers, and like firefighters, and their schedule. It's interesting. Is more like and you know, our nurses, even the people doing shift work of jobs where you need people around the clock, and they don't really operate on the weeks on the week system. It's interesting that the most almost not integral, but like these type of public service jobs actually don't operate, because they work often something like off. It's like 5 days, 4 days on, 5 days off or something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. If it's your 5 days, you might work Saturday to Wednesday.
Yep.
And that's just roll the dice.
Yeah. So it is, like it's a social convention, but you know, things happen on weekends that don't happen on weekdays and vice versa. And that's just
100%
the way it goes.
Yeah. It is always nice to have some time off during a weekday to just kind of, even just now being at your place here in Newcastle, I just walked to the local cafe to get a coffee on a Monday morning and I just felt nice, gentle vibes.
Yeah, it's nice. Like I did some yoga in the park. That's my Monday morning ritual. And it's right next to these tennis courts and there's people out there playing tennis on a Monday morning. And I'm like, that's great. Like good on you. You know? Not everyone has to run off to be at a place.
Yeah, it was funny.
Certain time, unless that place is the park to do yoga or tennis.
Yeah, rushing to yoga. That's an interesting.
I've been there. I
gotta get to yoga.
I'm so stressed. I gotta de-stress. Like
yeah. It's funny. I was in Sydney on Friday afternoon, as part of the team for the Clipped Music Video Festival that we did at the Randwick Ritz, And it was interesting just where the Randwick Ritz is in Sydney is just such a barometer for, because it is an area that does feel the tension of the 9 to 5 work week quite a bit, just because of the through traffic that comes through eastern suburbs. You know, there's a lot of people, you know, coming home on a Friday afternoon, and I noticed tradies, school kids, parents of school kids, people finishing their work week, people starting to head out for the night.
Yeah.
If someone just said, stand here, look around, what time of the week is it? And I'd look around and go, it's definitely Friday afternoon. And there's these kind of little energy markers in the week where you go, this is like when I was out with you yesterday
Sunday
on Derby
Arvo.
Street, I'm like, this is Sunday in Newcastle for sure.
Yeah.
Because of the frequency that's going on in terms of
Somewhat
how quickly
subdued.
people are moving.
Yeah.
You know, people's general morale, and business operations, a lot of retail shut.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny that.
Interesting. So, wow, this has been a very eclectic array of topics and subject matters.
There's a lot to get the juices flowing, you know?
Yeah, and there's a lot of different types of juice.
That's right. And they, you know, all have different viscosity, general levels of density, frequency at which they flow and which they don't. Colors and flavors.
I like that. Similarly to our Simpsons, our alignment in our Simpsons knowledge, I also enjoy conversing with you because I feel like our vocabulary is very like, I wouldn't have used viscosity, but I feel like we both have a few curveball words that we like to throw in there.
We do, yeah, and it keeps it interesting.
Keeps it interesting. But if we wanted to, we could just go, yeah, mate. Yeah. I can imagine that. We'll just do 3 hours of, yeah, mate. Yeah, fucking. Yeah, you would.
Yeah, fucking.
You would, you bloody fucking.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have the modern, the eloquent
version, Metro Man.
Yeah, we'll do the Metro version and then we'll do the Bogan version.
Yeah, we'll have to do a translation.
Yeah.
This will be the dubbed. We can do a video podcast next time and then just dub over the top of it, the Bogan version.
That's so fun. Have you seen Kung Pao?
I knew you were going to say something like that. One of these like parody.
Have you seen
martial
Kung
arts
Pao?
movie? No. I haven't.
Oh my God. Wow.
Is that my takeaway? Kung Pao and
Yes.
the Lizard Gizzard.
King Gizzard
Wizard.
and Lizard Wizard. Yep. And yeah, then you might get a better understanding of who I am and why I am the way I am, because those are two very formative. I remember seeing Kung Pao for the first time as an 8-year-old. 8-year-old? No, it came out when I was 8. I might have been like 10 or 12. And I'd never laughed so hard. So it's this comedian, Steve Odenkirk.
I know him, yeah. Did he do the Thumb Wars?
Probably, because there's some thumb business.
Yeah, I did watch Thumb Wars.
in
Star Wars
Kung Pao.
parody with thumbs.
Yeah, so he got 1 or 2 of these old kung fu movies, and like for the time, it's like really ahead of its game. Like some of the CGI is a bit dated because it's from 2002, but he took these 2 old kung fu movies and then overdubbed some of that footage whilst also recording new footage with him and new actors, splicing it in, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I'll give that a watch for sure.
So funny.
What do you think about this? King Gizzard and the Lizard
Wizard.
Okay. I need to say it a few times and then it's locked in. Imagine King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard playing, but then live behind it is like Kung Pao playing.
Oh, it's a
Like
match made in
projection
heaven.
map
Yeah, it'd be
onto them.
flawless.
I feel like that would be good. I haven't even seen either of these things, but it's
Oh,
from
no,
your
Yeah, they're from the
Description.
same star system for sure.
yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for having me.
Dude, Pleasure. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, the reboot. This is the reboot.
Yeah.
The debut of the reboot. Thanks for having me.
So what's coming up for you? Is there anything you want to plug while you're here? I know you plugged your comedy school. You can do that again if you want.
I feel like we've covered that.
Yeah.
I don't know how quickly you're gonna edit and put this out, so it might be in the
Hopefully
the
in the
past
next
now.
week or two. I don't know. We'll see.
But I'll see you at Dragon Dreaming if anyone's at Dragon Dreaming.
Hey.
I'll be doing a few little tidbits there, hosting the open mic music and the comedy, and hosting the burlesque show on the Behimza stage at 11 o'clock on Saturday night, which I'm very excited about.
Prime time.
Prime time.
Yowza.
Maybe I'll bring Elvis Presley with me.
And just dig him up.
Yeah.
One night only in Wee Jasper.
Yeah.
With the king. Well, sir, it's been a pleasure, as always.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on.
Peace.
And keep those juices flowing, people. We'll see you next time. I'm Lachlan Harvey. Good night, Australia. Hey there. If you made it this far, congratulations. You are officially at the end of episode 1 of Juices Flowing. Well done, and thank you for listening. If on some level this conversation got your juices flowing, or you'd just like to support this passion project of mine, I humbly request that you share this podcast, give it some love, give it a rating or review on whatever platform you interface with us on. That would just be amazing as we grow the Juices Flowing network and witness together where next the juices may flow. There's so many more exciting conversations and just amazing human beings that I am so keen to converse with and share that experience with you all. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Sending you so much love and appreciation from my heart to yours. Thank you, and keep those juices flowing. We'll see you real soon.